Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Warm Pacific greetings to you all. I feel so honored to be in front of you today, and I acknowledge your courage in wanting to join in addressing poverty in New Zealand. I'm the problem. I came to New Zealand 43 years ago on a Fulbright scholarship because I was working for the Office of Economic Opportunity in the US, where there was poverty in a land of plenty. And I have to say that I think in both places, the US and New Zealand, we have people working and earning as little as the UN definition of poverty, and it's very hidden in both our countries. But I believe it's in both places. But even so, even if we take our definition of relative poverty, both of our countries have got poverty. I came here, though, in 1972 because at that point, New Zealand had the fourth highest standard of living in the world and one of the least unequal distribution of income. And I wanted to learn from New Zealand so I could take it back to the US and fight poverty back home. What I discovered was that people were far more interested in the fact that I'd studied with Milton Friedman in my university degree, and everybody wanted to adopt the 1969 Milton Friedman paper that said that unemployment was good, and maybe as much as 4 to 6%. And by the way, income inequality was also good because it stimulated growth in the economy. I want to say now, let's stop this nonsense. It's not true. I can tell you, I've looked at it for 43 years, and it's not true. New Zealand's gone from the fourth highest standard of living to number 30. And meantime, our next door neighbors, they have gone up to 15. And we know that we can do better than them because we've seen it with sport. So I want to talk today about you joining the Trusted Team New Zealand because I see a way forward. The way of constraint that we've been through over the 43 years has not worked. The way of incrementalism has not worked. There are answers, though, I believe, and I want to talk to you about them today. The first thing to remember is that we have got this attribute of transparency and integrity, which is not something that we've dreamed up about ourselves. It's not like 100% pure, where we've gone to the world and promoted an environment which is untrue. But integrity is true. By almost every standard that there is of measurement, New Zealand really is a place of a trusted environment. And I'm going to talk to you quickly about what this means in terms of why our economy can be doing a whole lot better than it's currently doing. But the starting point is it's important for New Zealanders to be proud of what you've got instead of trying to be like other places. If back in 1972 people had been more proud of income inequality, of the fact that New Zealand's GDP was the fourth highest in the world, perhaps we wouldn't have gone as low as we've gone since then. And through that, we need to build on a healthy whānau and a strong integrity base. And by that, I'll show you why we can grow the economy, grow the tax base, and by the way, at the same time, it will reduce poverty by creating more jobs and providing affordable housing, and by the way, wage rates which are not the lowest of the OECD. Currently, our wage rates are down there with Iceland, Turkey, and Greece, our average wage rates. So we move into infinite possibility instead of what we've been over 43 years operating in a constrained economy. Now, this is the heat map. I'll just pass through it quickly, but as you can see, New Zealand's very yellow, and that means that we've got the least corrupt, the second least corrupt public service in the world. Sadly, we dropped from number 1 to number 2 last year because Denmark passed us by. And I just would like to signal that I think there's a huge risk that when this is published next year in January, you'll find that we are further passed by other Nordic countries. Key to this, through Craig's talk, we have got really serious failings with our criminal justice system, and Norway and the Nordic countries are working that out faster than we are. However, I think we could. We've also, at the same time, we've got the elements which means we could improve our criminal justice system. We just need to now pay attention to it. This is the National Integrity System, and Transparency International did a thorough review of our integrity system, because what we found is when we started to tell people about how highly regarded we were internationally, you know what New Zealanders said? Oh, it's not true. We're basically a very corrupt country. And so we had to have a good look at our system to see whether it was as good as we're perceived internationally to be. And we lead in so many areas internationally. That doesn't mean that it's perfect, but what it means is we've got something to build on. The biggest challenge, though, is that not only do we lack pride in it, but the lack of pride means that we're very complacent about it. And that complacency means that we're not doing what we need to save what we've got. And what I'd like to show you later is that once we know that we're preventing corruption, that we're maintaining our integrity systems, then we've got something very strong to build on that will give us the economic growth we want. These are the key actions that need to be done to prevent corruption, and you'll be surprised at how few organizations in New Zealand are actually doing it. These actions can be done, and they can be done across the public sector, and we're going to show this year through Transparency International that they can be done by the business sector too. And at the bottom of this is a question, though, as to why is New Zealand so strong in terms of corruption when we aren't working hard enough to prevent it. And I say it comes back to the nature of our families and whānau. Now, today we've heard a lot of the problems that our families and whānau have, but somewhere along the line, we've somehow been able to maintain our core values anyway. The challenge, I think, going forward is this perception that everyone needs to be at work all the time and not enough respect for what it means to bring up children. I think the beginning point of understanding how to deal in a trusted economy comes down to negotiation. It comes down to that child, when it's first born, being able to have loving parents who give it what it needs when it asks for it. And so I refer you to Dr. Bruce Perry, who's done studies of functional and dysfunctional families. And what he's found is that the one-on-one interactions in the first 18 months are crucial. That's when you give love and empathy, but also when the child says, I want food, it gets food. And of course, if your mother's going around and spending 60% of her time trying to find food, the baby isn't going to be getting that immediate attention that would be so valuable to it in the long term, in the future. Now, one of the saddest things about it is the brain is a muscle. And when the family is giving that child lots of empathy and care, they're also making the child's brain work. And when the child's not getting that engagement, when the engagement it's getting is negative, there's evidence that that neglect results in smaller brain size. And that's never made up in life. So I highly recommend that when we're thinking about the future, we also think about 18 months parental leave shared amongst fathers and mothers. Because in the absence of positive constructive interactions, as much as 25% of families become characterized as high risk, and that percentage will keep growing. So since I've started studying domestic violence in New Zealand 20 years ago, instead of it going away, it's actually gotten bigger, and we have more child abuse than ever. I don't believe we're an abusive society, but when you haven't got what you need, it's hard to give the care that's required. And when mothers are expected to go straight out to work. Now, one of the things I want to highlight as a way forward is our defense force. Does anyone know what we're number one in? We have the most transparent defense force in the world. And what that means is we understand how to use economic rather than military actions to actually counteract terrorism. And this is going to be quite important in the future. As you see, another map with little old New Zealand blue in the corner. So what happens with integrity? It brings a whole lot of really positive things. It brings the building blocks for people to communicate with each other. And that trust means that everything we do as a group can be done more collaboratively, with more energy, and with more perspective on the different parts of every job that you do. Diversity, as we know, makes a huge difference to the success of organizations. And what then are the benefits, and currently largely unharvested benefits for New Zealand? The first is reputation and brand. We know that over 25% in conservative studies, and some Harvard Business Review studies say as much as 60% of a business's profitability comes from reputation. In the past, we talked all the time about cash is king, how urgent it was for companies to earn those quarterly returns. Well, research shows it's nonsense. What's important is reputation and brand, and integrity is key. The absence of corruption means a lower cost of doing business every day. Our businesses could be working on that a lot harder than they do. It means a lower cost of capital. It means better market access. It means a higher rate of return on investment. And by the way, staff prefer to work for ethical organizations, so we could start attracting back some of our talented Kiwis to run businesses, not come back and just be professionals, but come back and actually make jobs for more people. And people prefer to support ethical organizations. Customers prefer to buy from them. And by the way, that means we should be selling our goods to broader markets overseas, and that will bring the revenue back for our jobs and for our more rich careers. So as you see, what you do then is everybody is participating in making this difference. And that generates increased returns, a higher tax base, and good sustainable work. And it should be possible in our small country to have that sustainable work for every single person. So be proud. We have the ability to grow a healthy whānau and nation, and that's key to our integrity base. Grow the economy and the tax base, and we can reduce poverty. There's infinite possibilities for you all on this journey. Start now. This is a serious amount of hard work, but we can do it. We know we can do it because we are one of the least corrupt public services in the world, and we've got their support. With you, we can actually make a difference across the whole economy. Thank you very much.